The morning sun flooded through the large windows of Sweet Rise Bakery, located at the corner of Lenox Avenue and 125th Street in Harlem, New York. The aroma of fresh croissants and cinnamon rolls filled the air, mingling with the faint hum of street traffic. Amid this bustle stood Michael B. Jordan, the renowned actor and producer, whose presence that morning was unexpectedly understated. Dressed in a simple denim jacket and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, he looked like an ordinary customer stopping by for coffee. But his purpose was far from ordinary. Lately, troubling rumors had reached him about the new manager, Richard Holt. Employees complained about his biased treatment, particularly toward new staff, most of whom were people of color. Known for his calm but unwavering demeanor, Michael decided to investigate these rumors himself. His plan was simple yet strategic. He hired a young African-American named Jamal to work behind the counter and intended to observe Holt's behavior from the back office, listening through a discreet earpiece. Michael believed the truth would reveal itself if given a chance. Jamal, a 22-year-old with a quick smile and a natural knack for customer service, stood behind the counter in a crisp Sweet Rise uniform. Hired just a week ago, he had been personally coached by Michael for this day. "Do your job, stay polite," Michael had said, his voice calm but compelling. "Let Holt show who he is." Jamal nodded, his nerves steadied by Michael's confidence. The morning started smoothly. Jamal greeted customers warmly, his movements confident as he bagged pastries and poured coffee. But Michael, sitting in the cramped back office behind a one-way window, noticed Holt hovering nearby. The manager, a wiry man in his 40s with thinning hair and a perpetually pinched expression, watched Jamal with undisguised suspicion. His arms were crossed, his gaze cold, as if waiting for a mistake. Through the earpiece, Michael heard Holt's first words to Jamal, thrown out just 15 minutes into the shift. "You're too slow," Holt snapped, though Jamal was keeping up with the morning rush. "Pick it up, or you're out by lunch." Jamal didn't flinch. "Yes, sir," he replied evenly, continuing to take orders. Michael noticed the slight tightening of Jamal's jaw, but the young man kept his eyes forward, refusing to let Holt's tone rattle him. But Holt wasn't done. "You missed a spot on the counter," he said, pointing to an imaginary smudge. "This isn't some corner store. We have standards here." His voice dripped with disdain, making Michael's chest tighten. A few customers glanced up, sensing the tension. A regular, an elderly woman named Ms. Clara, frowned but said nothing, gripping her coffee cup tighter. Throughout the morning, Holt's criticisms grew sharper, each one laced with the assumption that Jamal was incompetent. "You sure you know how to work the register?" he asked loudly, ensuring the line of customers could hear. "Didn't they teach you anything?" Jamal responded with restraint, but Michael could hear the strain in his voice. In the back office, Michael sat still, hands folded, his face a mask of calm. But inside, his thoughts churned. He'd seen this before, people like Holt who used authority to demean, targeting others based on race or youth. It was personal. Michael had faced similar prejudices in childhood, early in his career, even after his name became famous. But he'd learned to respond not with anger, but with reason and facts. By noon, the bakery was packed, the line stretching nearly to the door. Jamal handled the rush with skill, his hands swiftly bagging pastries and pouring coffee. But Holt's scrutiny never eased. He hovered closer, correcting Jamal's every move in front of customers. "That's not how you fold the bags," he barked, snatching a paper bag from Jamal's hands. "Do it right, or don't do it at all." Another employee, a young Latina named Sophia, worked the espresso machine nearby. She caught Jamal's eye, offering a subtle nod of encouragement. Sophia had been at Sweet Rise for years and had seen managers come and go. She'd told Michael about Holt, how he favored white employees and baselessly criticized others. Now she watched Jamal endure the same treatment, her lips pressed into a thin line. The situation escalated when a customer, a young white woman in a hurry, complained that her latte was too cold. Before Jamal could offer to remake it, Holt stormed over. "What's the problem here?" he demanded, glaring at Jamal as if he'd personally offended the woman. "It's just a little cold, sir," Jamal said, already reaching for a fresh cup. "I'll remake it now." "Don't bother," Holt cut in, snatching the cup from Jamal's hand. "I'll do it myself." You're clearly not cut out for this. He turned to the customer, his tone suddenly syrupy. I'm so sorry, ma'am. Some of our new hires need more training than others. The implication was clear, and the woman shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Jamal with a mix of pity and embarrassment. Through his earpiece, Michael heard Jamal's soft exhale, a sound of suppressed frustration. In the back office, Michael leaned forward, his fingers lightly tapping the desk. He wanted to step in and end this, but he knew the moment wasn't right. Holt needed to dig his own grave a little deeper. The breaking point came when Holt noticed a small spill on the counter, a splash of coffee from a rushed order. "What is this?" he barked, his voice cutting through the bakery's hum. "You can't even keep the place clean. I swear I don't know why they keep hiring people like you." The words hung in the air, venomous and heavy. A few customers froze, their conversations stalling. Ms. Clara, still at her table, deliberately clinked her cup against the table. Jamal paused, his hand still on the counter, and looked Holt in the eye. "I'll clean it up, sir," he said, his voice steady but edged with steel. Michael's jaw tightened. "People like you." The phrase was a thinly veiled jab at Jamal's race, his youth, his very presence. Michael had heard it before, in various forms throughout his life. He knew the time to act had come, but his strength lay in patience. His status, his influence as Michael B. Jordan, was about to play its part. The silence that followed Richard Holt's words was thick, like the calm before a storm. In Sweet Rise Bakery, customers averted their eyes, and tension buzzed in the air like an electric charge. Jamal stood behind the counter, his hands still resting on the surface, his gaze locked on Holt. "I'll clean it up, sir," he repeated, his voice calm but carrying a firmness that made a few customers raise their eyebrows. Ms. Clara, seated at her table, cleared her throat loudly, her eyes blazing with indignation. Sophia, at the espresso machine, clenched her fists but kept working, casting supportive glances at Jamal. In the back office, Michael B. Jordan removed his earpiece and slowly stood. His heart pounded, but his face remained impassive. He knew this moment, the moment when prejudice is laid bare, when truth demands action. Michael didn't rush. His power lay not in anger, but in precise, deliberate movement. He adjusted his baseball cap, took a deep breath, and opened the door to the back office. Step by step, he entered the main bakery floor, his figure in the denim jacket drawing the attention of several customers. Some recognized him, whispering, "Is that Michael B. Jordan?" But Holt, too consumed by his own authority, didn't notice the shift in the room's atmosphere. "Mr. Holt," Michael's voice was low but clear, cutting through the bakery's hum like a blade. Holt spun around, his face flashing with irritation, as if interrupted mid-sentence. "Who are you?" he snapped, his eyes narrowing as he sized Michael up. "This is a private conversation with my employee." Michael stood calmly, his hands relaxed at his sides. "I'm not sure I'd call this a conversation," he said, his tone even but piercing. "It looks more like you're humiliating someone who's doing their job better than you could ever hope to." The customers froze. Jamal looked up, his face a mix of surprise and relief. Sophia stopped working, her hands hovering over the espresso machine. Ms. Clara leaned forward, her eyes glinting with curiosity. Holt, however, just scoffed. "Listen, I'm the manager here. If you don't like it, you can leave. And you," he turned to Jamal, "clean that spill or you're fired." Michael stepped closer, his gaze steady but calm. "You're not firing him, Richard. And you know why? Because I'm one of the people who pays for this bakery. I'm an investor in Sweet Rise, and I've seen and heard everything you've done here today." Silence fell. Holt blinked, his face paling as his confidence began to crumble. A few customers gasped, whispers of Michael B. Jordan rippling through the room. A teenager pulled out a phone to record. Ms. Clara barely suppressed a smile, her arms crossing over her chest. "You... what?" Holt stammered, his voice trembling. "This is some kind of joke. You can't—" "I can," Michael interrupted, his voice still calm but carrying a weight that silenced Holt. "I hired Jamal. I asked him to work today to see how you run this bakery. And what I saw was a man abusing his power, demeaning employees, and relying on prejudice instead of facts." He paused, letting the words sink in. You said people like you. What did you mean by that, Richard? Holt opened his mouth but found no words, his face flushed, his eyes darting between Michael, Jamal, and the customers, now openly watching the scene. Jamal stood quietly, his shoulders squared, a quiet pride in his eyes. Sophia stepped closer, her gaze filled with respect for Michael. I didn't mean it like that, Holt finally muttered. I just wanted things done right. Right? Michael echoed, his eyebrows slightly raised. Right is respecting the people who work for you. Right is judging them by their work, not your assumptions. Jamal served dozens of customers flawlessly today while you belittled him. That's not management. That's prejudice. Customers began nodding, some even clapping. Ms. Clara called out, "Well said." Holt looked as if he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. That same day, Michael called an emergency meeting with the bakery's other investors via video call. He laid out everything he'd seen and heard, backed by security camera footage and testimonies from Sophia and several customers who agreed to speak up. By evening, Richard Holt was fired. Sophia, who had long deserved a promotion for her dedication and professionalism, took his place. Jamal received an official offer to stay at the bakery permanently, along with a bonus for his composure under pressure. But Michael didn't stop there. He used his influence to launch a training program for Sweet Rise employees, focused on inclusivity and combating bias. The story of what happened spread quickly through Harlem, partly due to the video the teenager posted on social media. The post garnered thousands of shares, sparking discussions about racism and abuse of power in everyday settings. Local media picked up the story, and Sweet Rise became a symbol of change, drawing new customers who supported its values. Sophia, now the manager, implemented new policies. Every employee received equal opportunities, and customers noticed a warmer atmosphere in the bakery. Ms. Clara, who had once only watched in silence, began telling other patrons about what happened, adding, "That man, Michael, reminded us we can all make a difference if we don't stay quiet." Jamal, inspired by Michael's support, started dreaming of his own business, knowing he had an ally who believed in him. This story isn't just about a bakery in Harlem. It's about how each of us can notice injustice, challenge it, and change what seems ordinary. If you see someone being treated unfairly in your neighborhood, at work, in a store, don't look away. Say something, do something. Share this story to remind others. Dignity prevails when we act together.